Chicago crazy. Huh?
Yeah, scared me. We are live.
Okay, very good. Well, welcome to the Elyria City Council November 16th, 2020 Zoom meeting. We're going back to Zoom meetings, streaming live, just based on the spike in the COVID-19 virus. So we take the recommendations of the governor at this particular time, and we'll just moving forward, that's what we'll be doing, Zooming, until we otherwise feel comfortable we can get back into council chamber. So I appreciate everybody, appreciate the IT department, Corey Henderson, for kicking us back into gear over and through here. So I hope everyone's doing okay. And at this time, we take a moment of reflective silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Law Director Deary, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Sure, let me unmute myself. I pledge allegiance to the flag of
Right.
the United States of
States of
America
America.
and to the
And to the
republic,
republic for which it stands,
one nation under God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty and justice for all.
justice for all.
Thank you, Law Director Deary. Mr. Clerk, make it a roll call, please.
Absolutely. Mr. Callahan. Here. Mr. Sierra.
Here.
Mr. Oswald.
Here.
Mr. Baird. Mrs. Mitchell.
Here.
Mr. Tolet.
Here.
Mrs. Simmons.
Here.
Mrs. Davis.
Here.
Mrs. Keys.
Here.
Mr. Jesse.
Here.
Mr. Stewart.
Here.
One absent, Mr. Baird has an excuse here.
All right. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Mitchell, second by Mr. Sierra. Any questions?
Question.
Question to call out. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Public hearings.
There are none.
Can I get approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sierra,
Second.
second by a lot of people. Any discussion?
Question.
Questions have been called. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Remarks and reports from city officials. Mayor Whitfield.
Thank you, Council President. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, first off, I want to share how proud I am, how well y'all are doing on the Zoom platform. I'm just watching y'all flow through this, and I'm just proud of y'all. This is awesome. So I'll start with that, but I also want to thank the Elyria City staff. As many folks have experienced around the city, we had a major storm come through last night and through yesterday that wiped out a lot of people's power, and it's been a difficult night and day for folks. And so you'll get a report from Ohio Edison in a little bit, but just want to thank the city staff who are out there on the ground in the dark. Auxiliary was out there as well. And I just want to give them a shout out. And we're dealing with that at the same time. We're dealing with these rising COVID cases. And I hope you all have seen the news that, there's vaccines that are coming. So we're rounding the bases here. If we can just persist through these holidays, and we might have to sacrifice a little fun these holidays, but know that we'll be able to do a lot later. So let's sacrifice a little now so that we can do a lot later. One thing we are going to still continue with this year is our Festival of Lights. So we're planning to do that on Saturday, December 5th at 5 o'clock. And we're going to do a drive-through for Santa. So Santa's going to be in City Hall parking lot. And we're working with the Elyria Sunrise Rotary to have families be able to drive through City Hall parking lot, wave to Santa, get a goodie bag, and try to make the most of the festivities that we can during this pandemic. And so, yeah, what a year it's been, and we're getting close to the end of 2020. And just appreciate all the patience with myself in this learning year. It's been quite a year to be a first-year mayor, but I'm just happy that I got a good team of folks and appreciate council support navigating through it as well. So, thank you, Council President.
Any questions for the mayor? Okay, thank you, Mayor. Oh, Mr. Tolet?
To the mayor, I want to give a shout out to Ren. I called Ren this morning about posting this meeting online, and within maybe an hour, she had it uploaded on the front of our webpage. So hats off to the mayor's staff, specifically Ren, for that. So thank you.
Mr. Tolet.
Thank you. I'll pass that on.
Very good. Safety Service Director Firestein.
Appreciate it. Through the chair to members of council, great to, well, not great to see everyone via Zoom, as we'd all appreciate being in the same room together. But I wanted to yield most of my time to, we have Nick Casteros joining us at the meeting tonight. He is our regional rep for First Energy, and he was on the phone with Kevin and myself last night, dealing with some of the issues on Fowl Road, as well as some of the outages. So if it's okay with you, Chair, I'd like to yield my time to Mr. Casteros and let him kind of explain what happened throughout the night and today, and then hopefully answer any questions members of council may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Casteros, please, welcome. Please state your name and address for the record.
Sure, Nick Katseris. Actually, our office is in off of Lake Avenue in Elyria, Ohio. Thank you so much for having me on today. Director Firestein wanted me to come on today to speak about the outages that are currently experiencing throughout Elyria. I'm sure all of you experienced the high winds. Yesterday, we had high winds of over 70 miles per hour throughout the majority of the day yesterday, which makes it very challenging for our line crews to be in bucket trucks and fat forestry workers and hazard responders. So, we appreciate all of your patience and understanding. The storm actually went through our entire First Energy footprint. At the height of the storm, we had about 500,000 customers out throughout our entire Ohio Edison, or First Energy footprint, and about 127,000 customers out in Ohio Edison alone. So Elyria, I know, actually did pretty well, so to speak. We had about 700 customers out at the peak today, and we're down to about 265. A big outage occurred over Fowl Road earlier today with the road being blocked. We understood it was, it was a safety issue, but we just actually did have that restored about an hour ago. So those about 420 customers out that way were just picked back up again. So we're going to be slowly but surely restoring the remaining 265 customers, aiming to trying to get those restored by tomorrow. I'm sure if some of the residents have seen the global ETRs on the website have been Wednesday. That's the very latest, but our goal is to get those remaining 265 by tomorrow, and we're going to do our best to do that.
Very good. Thank you very much for coming here tonight. Any questions from Mr. Casteros in regard First Energy and where the power outages are at? Mr. Jesse?
Okay, yeah, thank you, Nick, for coming on and explaining that, because I was a little confused. Our power is still out, and I've been looking on the website, and I see where it says Wednesday night, and I figured that's probably, the latest, but I'm glad to hear those numbers. So you think in Elyria we're down to about 200?
Yeah, 265 as of about 20 minutes ago.
Okay, great. Well, then maybe mine will get on tomorrow.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. Yeah, hopefully so.
All right. Thank you so much.
Any other questions? All right, very good. Thank you.
If any of you need my contact information, please reach out to Director Firestein. He can give you my cell phone number. As he knows, I answer it, any time of the day. So, beyond just the storm, if you need anything Ohio Edison related, don't hesitate to reach out to me. So I'm happy to help.
Thank you, Nick, for your time. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you all.
Okay, Finance Director Plesky.
Thank you, Council President Stewart. Just a quick update on income tax collections. The two distributions from the Regional Income Tax Agency in November were down $407,303 as compared to last November. So for the year now, we are down $1,877,397 as compared to this time last year. So that's a drop of 5.8%. Again, we're down $1,877,397 for the year so far.
Well, that's not good news, Ted.
Definitely, COVID pandemic problem, and with it spiking, we could be looking at closures again, and these numbers could even go further south. So just to be prepared.
Yeah, be mindful. All right, everybody. Any questions for Mr. Pileski regarding the numbers? All right. Thank you, Ted.
Mhm.
Let's see. Chief Whiteley, Leary Police Department.
I have no report, Mr. President, but I can answer any questions if anybody has any.
Any questions for Chief Whiteley? Mr. Oswald.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've had a lot of calls, people talking about the safety issue over at the Dunkin' Donuts in front of the college. Evidently, they only have one line coming in, and the traffic is backed up always on the street. Possible accidents with people going north and trying to turn into Dunkin'. It's hectic. People got to get their coffee, so it's a bad intersection right there. I was wondering if maybe somebody could reach out from the city to the Dunkin' Donuts owners as a possible solution, maybe a second drive-through spot. I don't know, but something needs to be done before a serious accident. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Oswald. All right, anybody else have any questions? Very good. Assistant Safety Service Director Brubaker.
I just wanted to piggyback on the mayor a little bit in regards to our city services that responded last night. Fire was out most of the night. They actually had to do a recall, and they had to bring in 9 guys to be in pickup trucks to go out to where the lines were down, so they weren't sending engines. The engines were dealing with trees in the houses. Also, the Leary Police Department, both the day and night shift, did an excellent job, as well as we had several auxiliary officers out supporting police and fire with blocking intersections where the lines were down. And then a big shout to our street department, who responded multiple times through the night with barricades and cones and lights so that traffic could be blocked, but also be able to flow. And in the forestry department, by way of the sanitation department, they were out clearing what they could clear when a tree went down in a major road. If they could clear it, they did. Branches, curb lawn trees. So they did an outstanding job. And then forestry was back out today doing additional cleanup. So you can be, as the mayor said, you can be proud of our city services and the response that they did last night in handling this situation, because for about 3 hours there, it was complete chaos.
Right.
But they did a fabulous job and responded as quickly as possible.
Very good.
And I just wanted to piggyback on the mayor on that. As far as leaf collection is going, they are out. They're working every night as long as the weather is working. They're putting 5 trucks out south of 57, and they're putting the 2 trucks out that's run by wastewater north of 57. I know I got some emails over the weekend. People were worried about the leaves in their yard going to get blown away. Unfortunately, that's the nature of the beast. But the teams were out again today collecting the leaves, and they will continue doing that as needed throughout the city. I know I get calls from people saying a truck has not been down my street all fall. And I know that the street department, because I've seen the list, track every street that they do by date. So I'm able to go back and check and see when the last time a truck was down that street. But rest assured, the leaves are getting picked up and will continue to get picked up.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Brubaker. Mr. Jesse?
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you, Kevin, do we have an approximate date that we're going to continue to do leaves?
Yes, through you, Mr. President. We typically run through that first full week of December. That's our official date. But I know last year we ran all the way up through the end of the year, weather permitting. As long as the guys aren't having to be out plowing and there's still leaves out there, we will continue to send trucks as appropriate.
And I saw one of our leaf collecting devices being pulled by a brand spanking new big giant pickup truck.
Now, you've got pickup trucks, you've got brand new spanking, as you would say, dump trucks pulling them as well. So issue 6, and actually several of those leaf backs were issue 6 as well. So Leafs issue 6 is certainly working in action.
Thank you.
Very good. Very good. Any other questions for Mr. Brubaker?
Yeah, Mr. President.
Yes, Ms. Deary.
Thank you. Mr. Brubaker, I just had a question. Obviously, there's still a lot of cleanup to be done after this past week on storm, but are there plans to have a brush pickup? I know in a lot of neighborhoods, residents have been able to kind of take care of their branches on their own, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot on the curbs as well. And I know that street department and the rest of the city crews are not going to want those getting mixed up with leaves either.
Yeah, through you, Mr. President, we run 2 chipper trucks a day through the sanitation department. They are accounting for areas that were hard hit, and they will be sending trucks specifically into those areas. We also have the chipper truck in the forestry department that can be sent out once they get the stuff cleared that they need to clear. We'll have that chipper truck out there doing that as well.
Sounds good.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Brubaker. Ms. Calvert.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you, I wanted to provide to council an update on the distribution of the Elyria Cares small business grants. So to date, 24 companies were awarded just under $492,000 through the CARES Act grant funds. As of now, almost $330,000 to 11 different companies has been distributed or is in process. So those we're waiting for the checks to be cut and issued, but those are complete, and those companies will have those funds if they don't have them already, before next week.
Okay.
We have 13 outstanding that we are still waiting for the signed agreement. Every company that was awarded has received the agreement. So we're still waiting for them to review, sign, and return. So Director Scott and I will be making phone calls and doing outreach to those companies to make sure that they don't have any questions, and that they have in fact received those agreements.
Documents, yeah.
Yeah, so that is a total outstanding of $163,031 for those 13 companies.
Okay.
So we reviewed over 40 applications. We developed a program pretty quickly, and as those that were on the Elyria Economic Development Committee know, there was a lot of work that went into reviewing those. So I want to give a huge thank you to the Elyria Economic Development Committee, who met weekly to review those applications in depth. And then also I want to thank the Community Development Department and the Law Department, because they have done a tremendous job in providing all that input and reviewing contracts and monitoring the funds. So it's been a real collective effort, and they've done an amazing job.
Thank you too, Dawn. You did a bang up job. Don't sell yourself short on that. You did a great job with that as well. So
thank you.
Is there any questions for Ms. Calvert in regards to Mr. Jesse?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. For you, Dawn, is it appropriate for you to send us a list of the companies and businesses that received monies?
Yes, I can send that, absolutely.
I'd be curious to see it.
Mr. Oswald?
Through you, Mr. President. Question, the Friendly's building on East Broad Street and Park Place just got sold. And I was wondering if you have something in place that when companies buy buildings like this, if you reach out to them to do whatever you can to help them along the way and make them be successful?
Yes, thank you. That's a good question. So typically I become alerted in that type of instance where they did not seek the city's help prior to purchasing the building. I would become notified when they've reached out to the building department. So at that point, yes, we would be reaching out and offering any assistance.
Thank you.
Mr. Oswald, any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Calvert. Engineer Schneider.
Thank you, Mr. President. Quick update on a few projects. The fence around the fountain came down today, so that has been removed. So people have already been out there, so I think they were happy. As soon as it opened, there actually were like 3 or 4 people out there already. So Abbey Road and Poplar Street. Abbey Road was open last Friday. Poplar Street, I know they were paving it today, the remaining portion of it to try to get it open, as well as Bon Air. I don't know if they finished that today. I did not get a message from my inspector. It's unfortunate this time, but they are working out there and trying to get that opened, and it should be open definitely by the end of this week. West River Road, the water main project, sewer project over there. We're hoping to be paving later this week as well, provided the weather is good, which I just checked the 10-day forecast and it shows it being in the 50s on Thursday and Friday. So we should be able to hopefully get part of that project wrapped up. That will continue though further north with the water main all the way up to 57. So there will be work during the winter with restoration to be completed in the spring of next year. So with that, I open it up for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Schneider? All right. Mr. Oswald.
Thank you, Mr. President. Do we got an update on the connector road as far as where we stand on possibly getting that open and maybe I was having a hard time hearing him talk, so I don't know if I missed something. But yeah, I'd like to know what's going on. I know they've had some issues. We won't go into it, but can somebody give us an update on that, please?
Regarding the connector road, right now we are finalizing some legals on that, getting the land transferred over to our name before we open it up. Still needs to go before Planning Commission as well to dedicate the roadway as right of way. But we are moving forward with all the additional paperwork we need to do to make the road a legal road per se. So right now, which we should have it transferred over by, I believe, the end of this week. The road would be like park property, so it doesn't have the same rights and restrictions as right of way. So that's where we sit right now. It's more of internal paperwork and legal issues.
Any other questions for Mr. Schneider? Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Ms. Connor, utilities.
Well, yes, not a report, but Salvation Army has been able to assist a lot of our residents to quite a good dollar amount. And I also received paperwork late this afternoon from Lorraine County Community Action Agency that they are also helping several of our residents with financial assistance. So our aging report is starting to look a little bit better, and we're keeping tabs on that. But I think once we put the December 1st date out there as shut-off date, people started to step up and pay their bills if they can.
Very good. I know it's a difficult time, but we're just trying to move that process forward a little bit. If there's any other opportunities that we can help people out, we'll certainly do so. All right.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Connor. I think I've got
You're
everybody. Welcome. Is there somebody else who wanted to contact or talk to Ms. Connor? No, I think I've got everybody. All right. Thank you, everybody. President's referrals and remontrances. Number 1, Community Development Planning Commission. Item number 2, Community Development Planning Commission. Item number 3, Community Development Finance. Item number 4, Community Development Finance. Item number 5, Finance. Item number 6, Finance. Item number 7, Finance. Item number 8, Finance. Item number 9, Utilities. Item number 10, Community Development and Planning. Item number 11, Community Development and Planning. Items 12, received and placed on file, copies upon request. Petitions and remonstrances from council members?
There are none.
Petitions and remonstrances from the lobby?
There are none.
Reports of special and standing committees?
There are none.
So we're good.
You ready?
We good?
Yeah, could you hear me?
I do. You kind of cut out there.
Oh, I'm sorry. There were none. We're on
Okay.
resolutions.
All right, sounds good. All right, so I just make sure everyone's got the amended agenda that was handed out. Make sure it's what we're going to be running off of now. Resolutions first reading.
Sponsored by Finance. A resolution approving a list submitted by the Safety Service Director for the collection of delinquent inactive utility accounts and directing the Clerk of Council to certify said accounts to the Lorraine County Auditor.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this resolution be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any discussion?
Question.
Question on the suspension. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Resolution 2020-25. No more resolutions first reading.
Resolutions second reading.
There are none.
Resolutions third reading.
There are none.
Ordinances first reading.
Sponsored by Finance. An ordinance amending ordinance number 2020-38, known as the 2020 Permanent Appropriations Ordinance, to change funds in various accounts.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any discussion?
Question?
Question's been called. On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
It's 2020-146. Sponsored by Finance. An ordinance amending ordinance number 2020-99 and ordinance amending ordinance number 2020-38, known as the 2020 Permanent Appropriations Ordinance, to change funds in various accounts.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any discussion?
Question?
Question's been called. All those in favor on the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
2020-147. Sponsored by Finance. An ordinance amending ordinance number 2020-121 and ordinance amending ordinance number 2020-38, known as the 2020 Permanent Appropriations Ordinance, to change funds in various accounts.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any discussion?
Question?
Question's been called. On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2020-148. Sponsored by Finance. An ordinance amending number 2020-135 and ordinance amending ordinance number 2020-38, known as the 2020 Permanent Appropriations Ordinance, to change funds in various accounts.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2020-149. Sponsored by Finance. An ordinance amending ordinance number 2020-140 and ordinance amending ordinance number 2020-38, known as the 2020 Permanent Appropriations Ordinance, to change funds in various accounts.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any discussion?
Question.
Questions have been called. All those in favor signify on the suspension. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
2020-150. Sponsored by Finance. An ordinance ratifying and authorizing the mayor to sign an agreement by and between the city of Elyria and the Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association, full-time dispatchers, and declared an emergency.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any discussion?
Question?
Question has been called on the suspension. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Nay. Motion carried.
2020-151. Sponsored by Finance. An ordinance amending ordinance 2016-6, known as the salary ordinance, to reflect the correct wages of the Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association, full-time dispatcher employees, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any discussion?
Question?
Question has been called on the suspension. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2020-152. Sponsored by Finance. An ordinance amending ordinance number 2016-6, known as the salary ordinance, to incorporate the 2021 Ohio minimum wage for certain pay grades and declare an emergency.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any discussion?
Question?
Question's been called on the suspension. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2020-153. Sponsored by Community Development and Finance. An ordinance approving and authorizing a petition for special assessments for special energy improvement projects and a plan for a public improvements and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Callahan.
Mr. President, I move that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second?
Second by Mr. Tolet. Is there any discussion?
Question.
Question has been called on the suspension. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2020-154. Sponsored by Community Development and Finance. A resolution approving a petition for special assessments for special energy improvements projects and a plan for public improvements declaring the necessity of acquiring construction, improving, installing, and equipment certain public improvements described in the plan for public improvements in cooperation with the Elyria Township, Elyria Energy Improvement District, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Callahan,
Mr. President, I move that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules and declare an emergency.
Second.
second by Mr. Tolet. Is there any discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Nay. Motion carried.
Resolution 2020-155.
This is
Sponsored
a,
by
re-
committee.
I'm sorry, Mr. Clerk, this is a resolution, so is it number 26? Last resolution.
You are correct.
Okay, I
Thank you.
try to keep track of the numbers. So at least
Making sure you're paying attention. Sponsored by Community Development and Finance. An ordinance determining to proceed with the acquisition, construction, improvement, installation, and equipping of certain public improvements in the city of Elyria, Ohio, in cooperation with the Elyria Township, Lorraine Energy Improvement District, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Callahan,
Mr. President, I move that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules and declare an emergency.
Second.
second by Mr. Tolet. Is there any discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2020-155. Sponsored by Community Development and Finance. An ordinance levying special assessments for the purposes of acquiring, constructing, improving, installing, and equipping certain public improvements in the city of Elyria, Ohio, in cooperation with Elyria Township, Lorraine Energy Improvement District, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Callahan,
Mr. President, I move that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules and declare an emergency.
Second.
second by Mr. Tolet. Is there any discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2020-156. And that's all ordinances first reading.
Ordinance is second reading.
Sponsored by Community Development. An ordinance amending section 1131.02 codified ordinances of the city of Elyria, Ohio, known as the zoning ordinance, to rezone real property located at 1301 Lowell Street, Elyria, Ohio, from a R-MD residential medium density district to a AL-I light industrial district.
I declare that this ordinance has a second reading. Public hearing scheduled for December 7th, 2020 at 7 o'clock. Council chambers.
Sponsored by Community Development. An ordinance amending section 1131.02 codified ordinances of the city of Elyria, Ohio, known as the zoning ordinance, to rezone real property located on Ernst Street and Midway Boulevard, Elyria, Ohio, from a L-I light industrial district to a R-MHP residential manufactured home park district.
I see that Mr. Monroe is here and must be representing. Mr. Monroe, did you want to weigh in on this or anything while we're here?
No, not this evening, unless anyone has any questions. I'm happy to answer them. We have the public hearing, I hope, scheduled the December 7th.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, I just seen yellow. I just want to give you your due to represent. Okay. I declare that this ordinance have its second reading, public hearing scheduled for December 7th, 2020 at 7 PM, council chambers. Well, I guess we should be retracting that because we don't know as far as going forward that they're going to be in council chambers. So I guess Mr. Monroe will be letting you know as far as moving forward, either through the clerk's office or the law director's office about the path moving forward.
Yes, Mr. President, thank you.
Sponsored by Community Development, an ordinance amending section 1131.02 codified ordinances of the city of Elyria, Ohio, known as the zoning ordinance to rezone real property located on Midway Boulevard, Elyria, Ohio, from a B-G Business General District and a L-I Light Industrial District to a R-MHP Residential Manufactured Home Park District.
I declare that this ordinance has its second reading, public hearing scheduled for December 7th, 2020 at 7 PM, either in council chambers or virtual Zoom.
Sponsored by Community Development, an ordinance amending section 1131.02 codified ordinances of the city of Elyria, Ohio, known as the zoning ordinance to rezone real property located on Midway Boulevard, 51st Street and 52nd Street, Elyria, Ohio, from a L-I Light Industrial District to a R-MHP Residential Manufactured Home Park District.
I declare that this ordinance has its second reading, public hearing scheduled for December 7th, 2020 at 7 PM, council chambers or virtual.
Sponsored by Community Development, an ordinance amending section 1131.02 codified ordinances of the city of Elyria, Ohio, known as the zoning ordinance to rezone real property located adjacent to 131 Buckeye Street, Elyria, Ohio, from residential to household R-TH district to light industrial L-I district.
I declare that this ordinance has its second reading, public hearing scheduled for December 7th, 2020 at 7 PM, council chambers or virtual.
That is all second readings.
Ordinance is third reading.
There are none.
Committee calls.
Community Development requests the law director, safety service director, engineer, and building inspector on 11/30. Streamed live at 6 PM, joint with finance. All referred items. Finance requests the mayor, finance director, law director, safety service director, and engineer on 11/30. Streamed live following the joint with CD. All referred items. Utilities, safety, environment requests the safety service director, law director, and engineer on 11/18, streamed live at 6 PM. All referred items. And strategic planning requests the mayor, safety service director, finance director, law director on 12/7, streamed live immediately following regular council meetings. All referred items.
Very good. Miscellaneous and unfinished business.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mitch Mitchell.
just to clarify, the utilities meeting on Wednesday, the 18th will be via Zoom.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good.
Noted.
Anybody else have any miscellaneous and unfinished business? Mr. Oswald.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to make a couple comments. It's nice to see the fence come down around the fountain. That'll get cleaned up and look real good. And the second one, kudos to the engineering department. When they put out bids and had the streets done, some of the striping was done in the thermoplastic paint. I did get an opportunity to watch them putting that down. It is quite expensive. They heat the paint up and they drip it on. And so we get a big bang for our buck when we do that, and we don't have to do it for maybe a couple of years or so. It lasts so good. I know we can't do that, but that's a good idea for some of our streets. Maybe we could start doing that so it lasts longer than our guys don't have to do the painting. Thank you, Mr. President.
Very good, Mr. Oswald. Any other miscellaneous and unfinished business? Well, you guys did great again. Get an A+ for your Zoom meetings. All right, without any more discussion, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sarah,
Second.
second by Mr. Tillett. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. Motion carried. Carol, I'll be up. You can put those in my box. I'll sign them and then put them back in there.
I'll do the same.
All right.
Night, everybody.
All right.
Stay healthy, y'all.
Be
Stay safe.
careful.